Jackson, Wyoming, Teton National Park, Gros Ventre. Or as I called it, the Gros Ventre. I actually went up to someone and said, do you know where the Gros Ventre campground is? And they said, you mean Gros Ventre? I'm like, yeah, that's what I meant.
And we live in Oregon.
We do. We've been here for 4 days. We initially booked it for 5 days, but then we went in today and re-upped for 5 more. You can stay 14 days here.
He wanted to do it for 2 weeks, and I was like, I don't know if I can commit to that, but this place has been spectacular.
Yeah. I mean, just, there's like 4 or 5 different loops just on this side. I think there's like 300, 400 campsites here.
I think it's 300 now.
It's 300? First come, first serve. But they run it really well. Bathrooms.
Cleaned every day.
Running water.
Ladies, there's mirrors in there. Do your makeup if you don't have an RV. I gotta rock my shoe.
Yep. So the way that we've been kind of running things is our YouTube channel goes about 2 weeks behind where we're currently at. Right? So the latest episode that will have just been shown would be us going through Livingston, Montana, out to Gary Vaynerchuk, Montana.
It's not Gary Vaynerchuk.
What is it?
He likes Gary Vaynerchuk.
What is it?
It's Gary Owen.
Gary Owen, yeah.
So close.
Which was where there was a battle of Little Bighorn was there. We went out and saw that. And then we were going to go to...
We were going to go to South Dakota.
Yes.
And go to Mount Rushmore.
Right.
But we changed our plans.
We did. Instead, we went back to Belgrade, Montana, just north of Bozeman.
That's right.
Which was, there was a harvest host site there at an alpaca farm. The
Best
wonderful
day ever.
alpaca farm. This girl loves animals. That's her kind of therapy. Any animal really is a therapy animal.
What is it?
Caterpillar.
Wow.
Wow.
I found that caterpillar.
That looks fake.
I found that caterpillar.
Look how it inches along.
I found.
Wow.
Let him crawl on the camera.
So maybe I'll touch base on why we changed our plans a little bit.
Sure. You want to go this way?
Sure. Well, that's more shady. Oh, is that just our regular loop? Okay. Going back to the campsite. Sometimes, wow, I don't even know where to start. About a year ago, I had like a culmination of life events happen kind of all at once and kind of opened up a floodgate, if you will. I never had any kind of anxiety or anything like that previously in my life, but it was just a bunch of events that kind of brought it on. And it's kind of like, I guess you could kind of compare it to like a seizure. Like once you have one, you're always prone to it in the future.
Right.
So I kind of feel like that's how it is with anxiety, is that like once you have anxiety or you have a panic attack, that's what happened to me, it's always kind of there, you know? You always kind of think that you have everything together and that you're handling your stress really well. And apparently I wasn't at all, you know? And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. So fast forward, this trip is a big deal because when everything started, leaving the house was a big deal.
Yeah.
Driving around the block was a big deal. Like, and it's been a year of baby steps, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and just to kind of go back a little bit to talk about how kind of big of a deal it was for your life. Grandma was sick, right?
Yeah.
You had
Major
surgery. A couple of different surgeries, and we're dealing with a lot of pain. And then in the midst of all that, we decided to go over to Kona, right?
Yeah.
And we love Hawaii.
And the one thing I know about Hawaii is that you bring everything with you.
Yeah.
You don't just magically show up on the island and everything is peachy.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
So I unknowingly packaged up all that stress and brought it there with me. And we thought, we're just gonna get away, we're gonna relax as a family.
Yeah.
And
I think we were there for 2 days.
it was honestly the trip from hell for me. It was like, kind of like living in a constant state of a panic attack.
Yeah.
Like I would take a prescribed pill and I'd feel okay for a little bit, and then it would just come back.
Yeah.
And it wasn't going anywhere, and there wasn't any state of mind that like the last thing I wanted to do was ruin the trip for my family.
Yeah. Well, and that's one thing that I always tell you is that whenever this happens to you, I always remind you that no one would ever choose this.
Like, I just didn't, the whole part, I didn't know how I was gonna do it. I didn't know if I was gonna make it. It was terrifying.
Yeah.
I've never been that crippled with fear and anxiety in my life before.
Yeah. So if you fast forward to what we've been dealing with, and we've been talking this whole time of, hey, anytime it ever feels like we're going back down that road, we'll just stop, because we have that ability, and it's not worth it.
Let's just sit right here.
But we've done a lot of, you want to sit on the benches? Check out this. This is like a little amphitheater here.
They hold church here.
They hold church here, and maybe plays
Maybe concerts.
or concerts.
Let's sit in the shade though.
How about that gun?
The old me would have looked at a choice to sell our house and buy an RV, and I was super adventuresome and all, like, other than my family, if you asked me what my next biggest passion was, it would be travel.
Yeah.
And that was crippling for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that I was never going to be the same again. And it was terrifying. That was almost worse. You know? Is thinking that like I might not ever be able to go explore and just live my life the way that I want to without always being like just anxious. And so I took every like I put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
And
you've crossed like a lot of major milestones in this process. You know, we selling the house, and
it was
not just selling the house, but then moving to the RV, and then everything with my job. And
it was a million steps along the way, because it was like, okay, get out of bed,
right,
take a shower,
right,
and you know, down the line, it was the first time I got on an airplane again, and riding on an airplane was never a fear of mine, you know. Or like the first time I remember we crossed the mountains over into Bend, and this panic came over me, and I just realized I'm in the middle of nowhere, you know.
Right.
And that stemmed back to being in Kona and feeling trapped.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And
just, I don't know if anybody's ever experienced where like you're not home and something happens and all you want to do is just be home.
Mm-hmm.
You know. And so that was
the feeling that you had when we got out to Gary Owen.
So that was the feeling that I had when we got out to Gary Owen. And it was like, it was so crazy, because 1 minute I'm having the time of my life and we're cooking grasshoppers and we're on our weekly walk.
Yeah.
And then it just is like a wave that came over me, and I hadn't experienced it like that in a while.
Mm-hmm.
The shadows I hide are the shadows that bind me. These dark corners becoming the walls that define me.
When you're in the middle of it, you're ready to throw in the towel and drive home. You're done. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
I talk back to myself all the time, and that's how I talk myself off the ledge. I'm always like, you're fine. You're safe.
Mm-hmm.
If anything happens, you know, people live out here. You know, I try to talk back to that voice in my head that says, something's gonna happen, you're gonna die.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have to call the ambulance, and they're not gonna be able to get out here, or something's gonna happen to the kids, or so I'm always constantly talking back to that voice, and sometimes that voice wins a little bit, and Gary Owen, it was winning.
Yeah.
And so that we were also on the piggyback of a bunch of travel days. As much as I want to go with the flow, a little planning and staying somewhere for like an extended period of time is really helpful for me,
Yeah.
you know?
It kind of hit a pinnacle when we were coming down through Yellowstone. And I think we were all ready just to point the RV west and head back home.
Yeah.
We were just burnt. We didn't have anywhere to stay. We hadn't really planned it.
Gros Ventre, staying here was like kind of our last ditch effort to like, I mean,
salvage it.
We like,
Yeah.
there were a lot of really fun moments along the way, but there was always this low level of stress.
Yes.
And I think
Yeah.
that if we were being really honest, it wasn't really fun.
Yeah.
There were fun moments,
Yeah.
but we weren't really having fun.
Yeah. I think that's one thing that we always, you know, I don't know. I got a question, I think from one of my friends said, you know, why are you guys filming this? Like, you know, and honestly, it started out of just keeping family and friends, you know, up to date on our travel.
Well, if you don't know us very well, we have been filming our family for years. We've
Right.
been making family films for years.
Yeah.
So to take a next step and document this trip wasn't a big stretch for us.
Right.
We already had all the gear and
Yeah. And, you know, I was watching Eamon the other night. The kids love to watch the episodes, and he was watching the episode that we just put out about Glacier. And there's that little like squirrel or chipmunk chirping, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And he has this huge smile, and I thought that's why we're
we
doing
do
this.
it. Yeah. It's like a video diary
Yeah.
of this time in our lives.
This time will go by so fast.
Yeah.
Our time here will go by so fast, and like we've said before, someday our great-great-grandkids will watch this. And so maybe you talking about anxiety will help them, or help someone else, I don't know.
I never want anybody to think that we're a certain way, you know, and I just have to be true to who I am.
Yeah.
And that's a part of me. It's a part of me that I really don't like. And it's a part of me that I work on constantly, but it's a part of me.
Yeah.
And I don't want anybody to ever feel like they're like alone in it, or that they're somehow different, or because there was a time where I just felt just broken. You just have to be flexible. Like if you're doing something and it's not working, change what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like our big motto is like, if we're not having fun doing it, then why are we doing it?
Right.
And if we had come here and we both still felt really anxious and stressed, you
Yeah.
know, then we would have just looked at each other and said,
Let's just,
let's do something different.
yeah. But this has been a great stay.
But I will say
What?
that when we left Gary Owen, I said, hey, why don't we go to that, or maybe you did, the alpaca farm.
Oh,
we
the
were
Harvest House
going to
stay.
stay
Yeah.
with them on the way, but we were going to make more ground, and so it didn't make sense to stay there. And so it worked out that we actually backtracked from Gary Owen. So we
Yeah.
went all the way out here because we were going to go to Rushmore.
Yeah.
That didn't work out. So we backtracked to this Harvest Host alpaca farm
Mm-hmm.
that kind of like happened at the perfect time.
Yeah.
And it like kind of salvaged everything for me.
It did. Yeah, it was amazing.
Because I had the most amazing time there, and something that calms my soul is animals. They
Yeah.
just are very calming to me.
Yeah.
And I went out in the field and I just fell in love with this alpaca.
Yep.
And she just stuck to me like glue. And all the other ones, all they were interested in were food.
Yeah.
And all she was interested in was
Giving
me.
you kisses.
What?
This is the next episode.
You have to tell me that. I get so confused.
Yeah, no, this one just goes out to...
Oh, okay. Okay. So
Anyway, it was a great trip.
it was an amazing trip. You know, I follow this medium, you know, and she has a lot of great wisdom. And one of the things that she says is get grounded to the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds kind of cheesy, but when I feel really stressed or anxious, as simple as taking your shoes off and putting it in the grass.
You know what's funny?
What?
Sorry to interrupt you, but I just watched that new Zac Efron,
Yeah.
you know, Netflix.
Yeah.
And they had just flown to London, and they were both like jet lagged, and he flies with one of his friends who's like a naturopath. And what he does when he gets to a new place is he takes off his shoes and he puts his feet, because he says that the magnetic pull of the earth will ground you to that new like time, you know.
Yeah.
It'll help you deal with the jet lag by, you know,
Okay.
pulled into
I
their...
think there's things that we don't understand.
Yeah. Totally.
But something about that alpaca grounded me
Yeah.
back down. She calmed my soul, and I felt ready to venture on.
Look at over there is you have the Tetons there. I mean, if you're looking, we were really worried about where we were going to stay. And it just all kind of worked out here. So we're in the amphitheater, and there's a giant parking lot there. And this isn't advertised, but if you show up and the campground's full,
And you're really nice to
and you're really nice to the people, they let you park in the amphitheater.
What?
Then you get up and you get in line early in the morning, which is what I did, to get a
so the
spot
kids
in the
and I
campground.
slept in. He got up super early, took the truck, got in line.
Yeah.
And he was second in line and scored us an amazing spot.
So head here. If it's full, go
ask about it. Say, hey, what about the parking lot? Can I stay there for the night?
stay there for the night.
I'm curious, do you think you can do this at other parks?
Maybe. Because every day there's a line that stretches
Oh, like practically all the
30
way to the
30 or
road.
40 deep.
Okay, maybe
And
not
it's
all the way
always
to the
full.
road.
So.
Can I just say one more
Yes,
thing?
please.
I just wanted to say that
Oh no. Here it comes.
I just wanted to say that, like, sometimes this journey in life is like, it gives you some curveballs, and it's really hard. And like, I'm just really glad that I have you as a support, like,
Oh.
in my corner. You always just roll
Well-
with it and support me.
Well, that's what we always say, is that you would never choose this. And I think that's a big thing with anyone who has any kind of like mental health issue, is that people who don't, it's hard to understand. But if you just try to empathize and say, why would this person ever choose to live that way? You wouldn't.
Right, so for 34 years of my life,
Yeah.
I was, you know, like, I would never.
Yeah. We all have something.
That's true.
So find those people who stay in your corner.
And cheer you on.
Yeah, it's a great place to end it. So from the Gros Ventre campground in beautiful Jackson, Wyoming,
Come to the Tetons.
come to the Tetons.
It's beautiful.
Stay a while. We're gonna stay for at least 10 days. In the next episode,
That's right.
a huge hailstorm in Yellowstone.
Ooh, that was a good one.
We get out of the RV for a night because we said, F this, we're done with it. Let's get out of the RV for a night. And we stayed in a hotel. I haven't stayed in a hotel for a long time, which is,
Yeah.
so that's been great.
It was
Normally
great.
I would never,
It was
ever,
great.
ever do that.
You could tell we were at our breaking point.
Yeah.
That was right about when we were like, dear God, give us a sign
Dear
that
God,
we're on the
something.
right path, please.
Giant thunderstorm and hailstorm, we said, enough.
Enough is enough.
Enough, we're done. All right,
All right.
shall we walk back and take dinner?
I woke up with you on my mind.
Yeah.
Watch the
Yeah.
air
See you guys.
They reminded me of like Grandma Shirley,
Yeah,
you know, just like a super positive attitude.
right.
And they just beamed when they talked about their grandkids.
Yeah.
And they're just happy people that are just living their best life. You know what I really liked about him?
What's that?
Well, I mean, they were both so sweet.
Yeah.
But I was just noticing that he has a real knack for asking questions that really draw you out.
Yes.
So personable.
Yep.
It makes you feel like everything you say is
Yeah.
important.
Yes.
I love people like that,
Yeah.
where they're just 100% engaged.
You should always try to live your life like you're a full-time RVer, even when you're not a full-time RVer, right? An RV park or a campground, you notice everyone here around, it encourages you to be social,
Yeah.
to be interested in other people, to ask about their life.
Plus, it kind of feels like a slice of Pleasantville.
Yeah,
It feels like a simpler time where everybody's making a conscious effort to slow down
yes.
and enjoy life, spend time as a family.
And people look after each other, people look after your things, people wanna help out. I mean, especially in this time, it feels good to be in like a campground like this, where you can still maintain a safe distance. You get that human connection.
Yes. Life doesn't feel crazy here.
You know, it doesn't.
It feels normal. Pretty much.
Speaking of human connection
Yeah.
and physical connection.
Whoa. You want to talk about this here? Okay.
Someone once said in an RV, you go front back, you don't go side to side. That's right. There's somewhere. Anyway.
Good pizza night.
All right, let's see if the kids are still around. Let's see. Generator's still running on in here. What is this? Oh my gosh, you guys.
Kids ever.
Best kids ever. Look at this. Oh, he's fast asleep.